Okay, so I guess I have to present. Hello, everybody. Um, Welcome to the first, technically second episode of Dreaming Live. So we had the first episode, but it was not recorded, and I really wanted to record it. So we're gonna have a second discussion, and as always, it will be naturally different. It won't be like a reiterating. So So I want to first quickly start by introducing the concept of Dreaming Live, which is my new project initiative. And there's many levels of Dreaming Live, but I will be speaking parts by parts and focusing on small parts, not like everything at once. And so I'm going to start with one small part today, and that part is about the world always trying to shape us. So I grew up, and we all grow up in a world that's already built by people before us, and from religious norms to social norms telling us what to do, how to act. In my case, I felt a lot of pressure on how to be a woman, you know, what it is to be an honorable woman, what it is to be a beautiful woman, honor, like be and especially beauty standards. I never personally, if anyone who knows me when I was young, I never adhered to those kind of beauty standards that were fed to us. And I remember very young thinking that I had to choose between either being beautiful or being me, as if those are two mutually exclusive things. And I remember choosing I'm going to be me because I have no other choice. And just like I had submitted to the idea that I cannot be this external definition of beautiful. And there's other forces also trying to shape us. Marketing. I watched a lot of friends turn their bodies into billboards for companies, wearing big brand names, thinking it gave them value. I always wondered why these people were paying money to turn themselves into advertisements. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't these companies pay us to carry their logos instead? So naturally, anyone who knows me when I was young, I was considered to be a rebel, but it wasn't me trying to rebel. It was just me trying to create space for me to be who I am. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine passed away, and I was one of the last people to be with him before he died. If I remember correctly, I don't remember exactly like how it happened, but I remember we didn't hear for a few days or something until we discovered he had passed away. And that experience, it destroyed me for 2 years, because after that, nothing, and I mean nothing, made me happy. No bars, no restaurants, no people, no music, no food, nothing. And when something did make me happy, it became very obvious to me that this thing makes me happy. And so I would hold on to that thing that makes me happy. And I compared that experience with like people who had to learn how to walk again. In a way, I had to really learn myself again. I had to relearn everything about myself. And I remember thinking of treating the world like a video game, identifying things that would level me up and things that would level me down. And I would start to identify, no, this is bad, this is good. And like for me, for my happiness, and this is what I want, this is what I not what I want. And really, really, and I kind of went to an extreme with that. Um, Vladimir, I think we met some years ago when I was still kind of in an extreme. I kind of balanced out over time, but um, yeah. So after that experience, I got into existential literature, and existentialism is the idea that existence precedes purpose. That so religion, spirituality, a lot of things, they claim that there is a universal purpose, that we are born into a cause that's defined before we are born, and that we are born and we have to live by those external predefined rules that are already laid out. Whereas existentialism says, even when we choose that to be religious or whatnot, in reality, we are born and then we choose. So we are born, so existence precedes purpose. So we're born and then purpose comes, whereas religion and others claim that there is purpose and then we are born into that universal purpose. So, and so um, so existentialism kind of entails a kind of rejection of a predefined purpose, but this rejection of a predefined purpose, it started with nihilism. not with existentialism. Nihilism was this idea that there's no predefined purpose, there's no heaven, there's no hell, therefore there is no point of living. And whereas when existentialism came, Sartre, he offered the best argument. He said, when we build a knife, we build it with the purpose of cutting. When we design a shoe, we design it with the purpose of the fact that we have to walk on it. Having an external purpose, it shapes the way the design is, and that objectifies it. So if we needed an external purpose for our lives, then we objectify our existence. Camus adds that this is also the same when you make art. When you make art, you could choose to make art for money or for other purposes, and that the shape of the art is then defined by that external purpose. But sometimes when we create art without a purpose, we become totally free to shape it based on our inner feelings and experiences in that moment. And therefore, exogenous external purpose also is similar to how it may objectify existence, it may objectify art. And not actually having an external purpose, it liberates arts. It allows us to choose the purpose of our life or of our art. And the very process of choosing our purpose starts with self-discovery, self-exploration, self-understanding, and discovering our passions. So although there is no point, that is the point. And the point is that we are free to choose. So similar, as Camus points out, this process is the same in art. And what kind of external factors influence art? So one of the things is like things that we've seen so many times. For example, I have seen hundreds of DJs play 4x4 Berlin techno for 5 hours. And so it's easy to think that we should do the same. The other one is expectation. So we might be feeling down, we might be feeling emotional, and we go into a dance floor and everyone's drunk and yay and woo, and we have to play into that, even though deep inside we're feeling completely different. So we end up having to cater to that. So these are external factors that could shape DJing. And I want to emphasize that there's two kind of arrows in this expression. One where the outside is shaping inside and what we're going to say, and the other is where we go inside and we externalize that into the outside. And for me, this arrow of going inward and externalizing, this is what it means to create. And all my life I've been asked, what is the sound or genre or this that I like? And I always rejected that question. And recently I discovered that the answer to this question is that I like, regardless of the medium, that to hear artists create, to hear artists externalize their innermost, to hear this to hear these values. And because this is what I'm interested in, and this is actually the core concept of DIY, it is to create dangerously, to voice our innermost. So to voice our innermost, and so to create is this process of externalizing our innermost, and to create dangerously means to voice our innermost in defiance of the forces that are trying to shape us. And lastly, because this is a set of values, then the medium is actually infinite. So with these values, they can be applied to cooking, they can be applied to writing, they get in all genres of sound, in all mediums of expression, we can find these values. And that is why, so the answer to the genre or style I like is I like any kind of expression that comes from within. And this is the point of this project, and therefore the mediums that are going to be part of this project are infinite. I'm starting with this radio show, and I'm starting within this radio show with a series of 3 DJs who really, really use DJing to voice their innermost, who have kind of changed how things are. For many of us, inspired many of us to do the same, to be free and to express freely. And this brings us to, hello, Vladimir.
Hello.
So how are you? Sorry for this long intro. You've been waiting.
No, it was a pleasure listening.
Okay, so some of the questions I'm going to ask, like a few of them we've covered. I would like to touch again, but there's a lot. The most we have not covered. So the first one, I want to go over you growing up in Yugoslavia.
Yes.
So the question is actually not the same as the last. How were things when you grew up, and were they different from when you left? How did things change?
Well, when I left after my high school. I was 18, not even 18, I think. And then the things changed massively in those 18 years, from some kind of lived utopia. No, it's not utopia, it's the wrong word, but kind of better society, equal society, turning into a complete nightmare when the worst of people comes out. That basically resulted in a disintegration of the country, in a so-called civil war. It started when I was leaving.
But did it start when you were leaving? Because I'm under the impression that it started when Tito died.
No, Tito died in 1980.
Yeah.
So basically he died, let me see if it started in 91, if I'm not wrong. So, 11 years before. But then for maybe first 5-6 years after Tito's death, was this lifetime president in 1980, insane amount of things in music, art, literature happened, because there was this vacuum of no one really being able to figure out what comes next. If this country is doomed now because this father of a nation is not there anymore, who's going to protect the country, and so on and so on. This was really traumatic experience, I think, for lots of people. And then moving closer to the 90s, all the separatist tendencies started for whatever reason. You have several historical opinions, but I think maybe we will figure out in 50, 100, 150 years what really happened there. But on the basic human level, it started then in the late 80s with a economic crisis that is basically organized the similar way I see it in the last years in Venezuela, in Iran. The same patterns of freezing money outside, imposing sanctions. And then, of course, when you leave people without basic means of life or basic tools, then under certain circumstances, they obviously turn into animals. And this is what happens there. And this is what happens like every day on this planet since decades.
So how did you manage to stay super peaceful?
Yeah, maybe because my life does not really need approval from somewhere else or someone else. And I don't know if it's a genetical thing or where it's coming from. I always did my best not to be absorbed by something or someone. Basically, maybe it's this existentialist idea of staying free or having free will, no matter, if this, what we live, is some artificial thing, a computer program or not. It's actually nice to, talk to you. If it's, kind of illusion, imagination, if it's really happens, it does not really change a thing within the system, whatever system is. But then basically trying to, protect my freedom and my independence from all the mess outside. Also, what was also always important for me, to try to avoid being dependent and corrupted by someone, because the moment you owe someone something, you're not free anymore. So the price you have to pay for it is quite high. Of course, I could have stayed in Belgrade and have, meal cooked by my parents every day, and I would have my city, my friends, but that was not an option back then. And when I look at it now, I would still do the same thing.
Do you remember when you decided to leave?
Yeah, it was a period of few months, basically. when it started. So Belgrade was not uh, affected by it. The war happened somewhere else, not really far. But then you're 17, and it all sounds, because some things happen so fast that you know being young, really you're not really able to process. I mean, who is able to process wars?
Do you
No one.
remember saying bye to your parents?
I remember actually saying bye to one of my best friends, like the night before I left, and which was a bizarre situation. So we spent the evening together, few friends, and she was the last one, because we lived quite close, and then so it was my door basically, second to last, and then I was about to leave, and it was like, you're really leaving tomorrow?
Was this Tatiana or
Tiana, yeah, the one you
Yeah.
met. And
Yeah.
so this I remember very well, and and I remember passport control at the airport, where I was not sure if this guy is going to let me leave the country or not. And then probably I was able to leave, because I went to school with a generation that was 1 year older than I was. So maybe this guy thought that I'm have summer holidays and I'm coming back. And when I left, it still felt so bizarre that they thought, after a few months, when idiots like killed each other, we will all come back. There is no reason to participate in something that is really not mine, that was this like created.
Do you know people whose behavior shocked you? That like suddenly carried guns or something, or not really?
No, not really my friends. So it's really interesting. I mean, even it's a digression, but today when I listen to some music that I used to listen back then, or books, there is nothing. There are no guilty pleasures and things like that. So basically everything stayed the same, except that my body needs more time to recover after some things. But my close group of friends, no one got like deliberately involved. I have a really, really dear friend who is in Chicago now, who basically could not leave the country at that time, although he wanted, and then he had to serve, and then he was put in some military unit, like probably seeing awful things, and he never really recovered from that. And those are incredibly sad things. And this is a reminder for me, that I just can't imagine that our purpose on this planet is to do such things. Like,
did you ever not, like, now you go back and you don't see the same thing, right? You don't see the same.
No, I mean, of course
that
not.
you grew up in.
No, plenty of people, unfortunately, were killed, injured. Plenty of people left the country. So the country does not exist anymore. So I can talk about Belgrade, city where I was born. And the social structure and morals and ideas became so different and so primitive nowadays, because in a way, all the people who decided to make a living out of misery and mess are now dictating what is right or wrong in this society, and it is something completely wrong. It's also turning into a neoliberal.
This also that happens. Also, I saw it happening in the Middle East, where like when there is death and when there is destruction, these conditions make people, for example, more religious or turn into these other things that will give them some kind of reassurance. It's not very many people can go through tough conditions. And
I mean, tough condition. My tough condition was to leave when I was really, really young, and give up all the comfort or things that appeared natural, being with the family, being with the friends, and there is this mess, and then this hope that we all have, that think it can get worse, or things will be good, or it will be better.
Was there more uncertainty then or how is the difference between the uncertainty then and now? Because now we're living in an era of tremendous uncertainty with COVID-19, if anyone's listening to this in the future,
Yeah,
and major protests and so on.
yes, but I don't know if I'm entitled to talk about this because my tolerance for uncertainty is quite high, or until it reach like uncertainty. People in Yemen or Venezuela who can't get their medicine, who get bombed every day, like Palestine, Syria. This is what I consider uncertain. If you're going to survive your night.
But you didn't
And
feel that back then?
no, because when Belgrade got bombed, it was in '99. I was already gone. But I remember the night when I was watching the news and airplanes like departing from Italy to bomb basically Belgrade. I was trying to reach my parents, and then I like they pick up the phone 5-6 minutes later, and I asked them what are they doing, and they were watching some news program. And I was like, but maybe you should hide because, like NATO airplanes are on the way to bomb you. And they were like, but no one told us anything. So I was watching the TV, how they are starting from Aviano and some, cruise missiles from Mediterranean Sea being fired. And me talking to my parents who were, totally not aware that something is going to happen. So those are, those bizarre situations and my personal experiences of life that are maybe more significant than the others. But then when I see what is happening now, it is nothing new. I mean, you mentioned protests that are happening now. We had those protests in 2016, and then for 4 years nothing happened. And I was just thinking, yeah, exactly. And this kind of also keeps me focused and aware to see, how it's going to develop. Of course, in a way, it's a huge chance to change something for the better. But in order to change something for the better, you should have like precise idea what you want, and not only what do you don't want. And
I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, that it seems easier to speak of anti-racism when everyone, including George Bush, is speaking of anti-racism. But but for people who have witnessed racism, we know who really was speaking out, who really, because one of the I find for me, what I found one of the most racist things I felt in my life is indifference. Is like, for example, living in Canada, imagine their government is bombing Libya and people didn't give a shit. And now they care that on the news, people are pointing fingers at the US, but when their own government was bombing Libya, so it's hard to tell if the movement, which I truly hope is truly genuine or not, especially when people like George Bush and all these companies are jumping on the bandwagon. Hopefully it is a genuine movement. Hopefully people will not go back to being different. But maybe this is for another.
Not everything belongs together. When you mentioned Canada, also, Canadian companies, if I'm not wrong, I should like reread stuff, are owners of the biggest coal mines and environmental polluters on this planet,
biggest exporters of weapons.
Yeah, so this is okay, or exactly, this is this indifference. And the problem maybe nowadays that everything became so fast and so branded that no one was able to give a hashtag and brand to destroying the planet, destroying Libya, destroying Yugoslavia, if you want, or whatever. You pick things in the last 250 years. So of course it does not justify anything, but it would be nice if there would be less branding and less like peer pressure to do certain things and focus on certain things, and
And
you know
more
have
genuine,
maybe
long-term
genuine
care.
wider view what kind of planet and world we want to live to our kids, or what kind of world we want to live in. And when you speak of racism, being someone who was born and raised in Yugoslavia, there was and there still is racism. uh like, is it politically correct to say gypsies in 2020? I don't, they kind of, they are really oppressed, and they are really really fucked for generations, because it's always, the weakest member of the society that gets all the shit. And so it was there, but then again, none of the people I know or feel attracted to shared any of those ideas and views. We all oppose this. But then, being like white middle European being bombed by other Europeans for, like fancy reasons and brands that are in a way not the reason for everything that happened. It's,
Do you remember the gypsy exhibition in Jordan? I have such a beautiful
yes, of
photo
course.
of Zelda. I remember pointing finger at that girl. Like the exhibition, it's funny because it's like kind of portraying the, just in a way, the suffering, but the beauty and the joy and the love. And despite the suffering, like I love Zelda's looking and thinking, like she was like so fascinated, like she thought that was the most amazing, like that this girl was lived the most amazing life to her, just seeing. And like she was, remember I have this picture, she's pointing at that
Yes, and when you mention this, it also makes me happy, because of course we transfer our memory and our experiences on the basic genetical level. I don't have to talk to Zelda and Rocco about those things, but then seeing her reacting in a way, imagining there are at least 28 different ways to react when you see a photo of a gypsy, being scared, or they're going to take you away. I mean, people used to scare their children with this in Yugoslavia, kind of, if you don't obey, if you don't eat your food, like gypsies are going to come and take you away, like really really ridiculous, miserable, ugly, evil stuff. But then seeing Zelda just being attracted to this human being, and being also somehow
fascinated.
moved by a misery of this environment. You see that it's not some fancy Barbie Hollywood shit. This made me happy, because then I thought something 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 will stay behind when I die. And then if she
So
managed to transfer this to her kids, if there are any at that time, maybe the world will be a better place in 470 years. Yeah, oh, look
that's the
how
picture.
small she is.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so
That's the
that's
picture. So
that's the thing.
beautiful.
Besides, yes, all the concepts of life and religion and everything, basically what it matters for me is to be, not to stop playing and just be kind to
So,
people. And when I see this manifestation of some kind of idea of kindness in Zelda in front of that picture,
oh,
it's nice.
I wanted to ask you, because obviously in this process of free expression, I think the primary thing that we have to deal with when we are born in this world that's trying to shape us is the process of questioning. So obviously we have to question, like, is this really true? Is this, how do you deal with questioning, with, like, in general, what are your feelings? Oh, I'm sure you have so much to say about questioning in general, but also how do you deal with it with regards to Zelda and Rocco, their curiosity or their questioning, or how they deal with, because obviously that, from what I saw, you really empower them, their individuality, and you empower, but how, yeah, how do you feel about that with them?
Well, I just take them seriously since they were kids. Dog was always dog, a cup was cup. There was, we just took a shortcut to something, because I thought, I still think, and that's the fact, we don't have much time on this planet together. So why would I waste all this time and keep something that I know and think away for the time when they're big enough to understand things? It is for me, it's not about this. And what you mentioned in the beginning, existentialist and free will and religion as anchor, maybe for some people. When I think about it, all those words and symbols are nothing else than concepts for something, concepts of understanding, of communication, and so on and so on. So basically, we made up those symbols and concepts in order to find our place in the world. Um, and I always say, it's so difficult to explain. I always felt attracted to certain ideas who are about basically looking what is behind those concepts. Like what happens if you imagine religion as a curtain or words, and then you pull the curtain away, what is behind this
Behind the
curtain?
scenes.
Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, those are things. If you're not able to find words and descriptions for it, it is difficult to talk about them, but it is more important to be silent about them. And then there are other ways to share those experiences in silence and in mutual, being together, and not necessarily talking constantly about things and tagging and branding stuff. So there is something really silent and quiet behind the curtain. And my idea when it comes to art, and you said creating art should be something dangerous.
No, it doesn't. For me, when I say dangerous, I don't mean like literally dangerous. It's a speech from Camus. It just means that it should, because naturally there's a risk. I mean, it's not really a risk, but naturally there's some degree of like society tries to punish people who act differently in a way. So if you want to go up on a stage and you feel sad and you just want to play sad music, people are not going to want that. But there's even bigger examples. Say you're in a society that's conservative and you want to dress, you're a male, you want to dress like a woman, or you want to be this. Society is always trying to shape us. So I think just naturally being who we are, in the world that's trying to shape us, there's. So when I mean dangerously, I just mean in defiance of those forces.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. But then, if you say dangerous to people, they will imagine like knives, weapons, cannons. There's also a concept of danger. But what is also dangerous is, beautiful, shiny, but slippery floor in a shopping mall that, it's broken legs and arms, everything can happen there. So, the danger can also look like really pleasant and really inviting and very kind and lovely.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is beautiful. And as long as your intentions are nice, if you're not asshole to, being into hurting people and proving a point or something, for me, it was more of trying. Of course, it's always trying. It's this endless trying of maybe creating some kind of mirror where you don't have to talk too much. You can basically hold a mirror against someone where he or she sees basically what she or he said or thinks. So it's more like creating, shiny floors and mirrors everywhere. Also, I don't know what it's called in English, but you have those fairs in Germany and everything, like Luna parks, and then sometimes they have those mirror cabinets where you see people inside, like running against mirrors, thinking it's a way out, and kids smashing their heads and falling down.
Labyrinth.
Yeah, some kind of mirror labyrinth. It's a beautiful thing, because then you basically let every individual figuring the way out and the meaning and sense of something that you created as a labyrinth creator, without telling anyone. If you want to die there, you can, you feel free to stay there for 6 days. But this also existential need to survive and to move forward, that in those funny situations keep people trying to find exit, and maybe they go out with some experience, maybe not. But in art, it is not, it's a not a moral thing. It's not mathematics. I can try to do something like this. It's like offering the entrance to some world.
I totally agree with you. Like, I think that any kind of like this, it has to be to, in a way, to empower people to find their own path. It's not about telling
Nice.
people
Yes.
do this or do that. For me, for this project, it's of course always very dangerous between telling people and making sure, like, even when you read Nietzsche, there are parts in his book where he says things where I'm like, what the fuck, this man is messed up in the head. But he ends the book
No,
saying,
you should read Nietzsche in German. It's beautiful poetry.
yeah, no, I love it. But he says in the end, if you read everything I said and you loved everything I said, then you are a sheep too. So in a way, you have to reject Nietzsche in order to love Nietzsche, so you have to find your own way there,
Yes.
in the end. So with regards to this project, I am more interested in finding the process of people who are doing this, so to discuss with you your morals. And I'm not going to say who the next three artists are, but you know who they are. Did I tell you who they are?
Yes.
Oh yeah, so that's going to be really exciting. But anyways, I'm
I
going to
mean,
go to the
I
next.
don't know the order, but I know your ideas and confirmations, and that is, I can't wait to hear.
They're going to start soon. So, so my next question, I want to talk about something really kind of funny, but one common theme I find with when I listen to people whose art I like, and also with me, that maybe for me, is boredom. I find like quite often people go beyond because they get bored. Like, I've heard 1 million 4x4 Berlin techno set. How much more of that can I hear? Like, what's the role of boredom in freedom?
It's an interesting question. Boredom also sounds so negative. It has very negative connotation in our super fast neoliberal capitalist world. But boredom is a beautiful thing. Plenty of ancient Greeks were into boredom, where you sit with friends, you are bored, and then you have strangest ideas.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
It's really, really beautiful. And then somehow, boredom became something very, very negative. If you are bored and you are not efficient member of this society, you're not participating in this rat race until you die, or until you can operate some machine or create Excel sheets for, automats. But, boredom can be a source of beautiful things. And sometimes I wish I would have more time to be bored.
Yeah, that's a very
because
beautiful
then,
answer.
When you're bored, everything somehow slows down, and then you.
Yeah, I think being bored also pushes you to like, you imagine how stagnant things would be without boredom. Like, we would just be doing the same thing in a way, or like you sit and then you process and then you question, and I don't know. It's, I think, a very important part of the process.
Yeah, but also, to reach kind of productive boredom, if there is, again, not productive in concepts.
No,
again,
yeah, absolutely. I absolutely
in a neoliberal way.
Yeah.
You probably have to take a few steps back and then really maybe question your place and programming on this planet, because it's an old thing. It's nothing new. But the moment you basically realize you spoke about how the environment shapes us and what have our parents do that. The language does that as well. And and when you realize that and start to basically get rid of this programming that puts you in certain drawers or formats, in your case, how you have to look like, how you have to behave, what you have to be, it is someone else's expectations and someone else's concepts of who you are. And it's a long and maybe painful process for some to get rid of all that. And there are different techniques how to reach that. You know, everyone can find whatever fits. And then when you go beyond this programming, then, you know, the wonderful world of boredom and the unknown and emptiness starts. And then you can start to fill it with life, or you know, discover and meet your soulmates in those places and in those areas. And it's full of life, and it's full of fun, and, you know, sadness and ancient memories. But to go back to your question, it's important.
So you know, did you ever, like, I have phases where I just don't listen to any music. Like, I can't listen to any music. Like, I'm just does nothing to me. And then, like, I almost rebuild myself. But anyway, that's kind of part of my overall process with art, or with music in general, or with life, with like anything, you know, like you consume something or whatever, and then you like start questioning, and then you're like, I don't know, and it's just a process. It's a constant process, and it's a constant journey, and we are never there. We're always learning. We're always breaking down. We're always rebuilding. I have a okay. So back to this kind of about you DJing, and I talked about this in technically the first interview. I said that one of the things that you inspired me most is, again, now speaking of Create Dangerously, when I started to reclaim my space. Admittedly, it was not the most peaceful. Like, it's not like I was like fighting anyone or anything, but I did find it to be like, I found it to be in my head it was a kind of a fight. But I didn't fight anyone, but I just had to, like, in my head, I had to be closer to people that were like me. Otherwise, like, I was not interested. And it was kind of like an extreme place that I went. But anyway, when I met you, I'm going to say the story again. We were in Romania, and a show had just ended before you, and naturally, as a promoter, I was saying, "Oh, you have to go up quickly. You know, now is your set." But you were not in a rush. You were super chill. The music shut down for a few minutes. You were super chill about it. It wasn't a festival. It was not, I would say, in a space where it would be, I would call it, where someone would easily play them very freely, but you let the music shut down. Started super chill, and you know, and then I felt very inspired by your, in a way, calm way to engage, to express freely, and that's very beautiful. I think we talked about it by now, but
yes,
yeah.
but that's how I felt. There was a Toresh concert, and there was Rabia in the basement with his Romanian musicians. That was really intense, cleansing session for me.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And then, you know, thanks to Rabia and you and Toresh live, there was some technical difficulties. It was, you know, to make this clear, it was not me who kept people in silence.
No, but in general, you have, and even in your music, a calm but mad rebellion. And not a rebellion, just like it's like a very peaceful and loving way. And maybe that's, you know, I mean, maybe that's kind of, you know, I mean, you maybe that's why your madness is kind of also approachable and lovable, you know.
It's this slippery floor in the shopping mall.
The slippery floor is a great analogy. Nietzsche has a similar one about, like, he calls, like, the external forces a dragon, and he describes the dragon really beautifully. Like, the dragon is super loving, you know, and when it tries to shape you and it tries to invite you. But yeah, so yeah, I think. Okay. So I have one last question.
Yes.
If Zelda one day told you, "Daddy, I want to become a DJ," do you have any advice for me? I mean, not to advise anyone, but say it was Zelda, your daughter, or whatever, and including if it's an anti-advice or whatever, what
No,
would you
no,
say?
not really, because if she feels that that is her means of expression,
No, no,
that is,
not. I don't mean about whether you would accept it or not. I meant what would be an advice based on your experiences as a DJ in the expressing.
uh, yeah, like
Like, what have
with
you
everything,
learned?
like with everything in life, it doesn't matter if you paint, if you write, if you are a poet, if you are, technical engineer, if it's something really that means something to you, then then just do this and do this the best you can. And it totally doesn't make any difference if someone outside likes it or not, because none of it should be done for someone else's approval. It is beautiful, if it encourages people, or if you manage to somehow share your idea um, of basically everything, life, daily experiences. And I'm not a teenager anymore. The older you get, the more meaningful things become, because you have more experience, more knowledge to analyze them, to understand them. Poems that you read as a kid suddenly, develop second or third life when you get older. So basically, going back to Zelda, if this is something that she really wants to do, then she should do this. If it makes her happy, if she feels there is something to be shared through music instead of words or colors or painting, it's a beautiful thing. I would love to be alive long enough to listen. I mean, even now in this like virus time, when they had no school, we spent lots of time together. And then she started to discover records here and learned how to operate turntables. And it was so beautiful for me to see, from this insane amount of records everywhere, what she found and what was her corner. And then every night we had to listen to records.
Cocteau?
She was drawing, painting, doing something, but we had to listen to records, and I had to translate some lyrics. And it was really a funny experience, because I never like rubbed any of those things on her nose, or Rocco's nose. And then just seeing them finding their way through all this, and where they stopped and what they listened. It's so funny, for me it felt like 1986 of young Vladimir, like seeing Zelda picking the same records and listening to that.
Wow.
So I had to live my 1986 somehow again, like really, really intense. Um, of course, it's far from DJing, but just being able to see what makes her happy, curious, sad in many ways. Like, Meat is Murder is the saddest song ever at the moment for her, because it's about animals killing. So she's not even vegetarian since, I don't know, 9-10 months. She became vegan like 3 days ago. So she's,
Wow.
yeah, really, really consequent in those things. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is
I saw
something.
how you didn't pressure her by any means, and like how she was slowly choosing more and more.
And seeing this gives me really some kind of, yeah, basically hope. Then it's such insane topic. Basically, I met, since Rock and Zelda are there, so many people who are, oh, youth of today, they're so bad, they're not interested in anything, and so on and so on. And I think, but whose responsibility is that? I mean, it's basically you who failed, and then they are like, bored, nasty bastards. If you share some time and some knowledge,
Yeah.
it won't be without any resonance and feedback. So seeing this with Zelda, and if it's the music what she wants to do, or is it painting, at the moment it's like being vegan and wanting to live in Tokyo at some point, and teaching German in
Or drive
order
a
to,
motorcycle.
yeah, yeah, this is always an option. So I'm also curious to see how this
I remember you used
will
to.
unfold with
This is an
mustache
inside
and
joke.
leather pants and her girlfriend maybe. It's you know, but as I told you, you know, as long as they are decent,
Expressing.
polite human being, like social being, because you know we are not isolated, me, myself, and I individuals, not only among humans, but you know, genetically we are quite close to trees as well, you know, very, very close. I mean, and to bananas probably. So just ignoring all those things would be a bad thing. So how you want to find your way to trees and bananas and insects and plants and fellow human beings, there are plenty of ways. And if she finds her, beautiful.
Are there shows where you, or context where you feel you are more able to be and in tune with who you are in your expression as opposed to others where there's less? Or
Yeah,
how is
yes,
that?
yeah, of course. I mean, the thing is, the moment you expose yourself to the public, uh, then you know, this idea of not being an asshole to the others, it's always this knowledge that someone maybe pay entrance and you know wants to have like great night and get drunk and get laid and you know whatever people do on weekends. So it would be awkward to, you know, it's a legitimate way of spending time. It's not necessarily mine, but you know, as long as it's not hurting my friends and family, it's okay. um, and then sometimes, of course it's not easy, but it should not be easy, it should never be easy. It's not easy to find a balance, how to provide a soundtrack or where to put your slippery floor in this like weekend situation. And then, you know, beautiful things can happen out of those. You know, of course it's unpredictable. You know sometimes what you do and what would you like to achieve, but maybe, you know, the guy or a girl, instead of crossing this slippery dance floor, goes to the toilet, so something goes wrong. But then interaction with those situations and what you do with music, and of course if I'm not in a best mood, you will probably hear this. And
Yeah.
uh not the best mood could get amplified by a frustration that you experience seeing people reacting to your not nice mood. But then, as I said many times, even that, not even that, it's important. You know, it's way more important if sometimes someone really hates what I did or what I played. At least it's an honest, powerful emotion, way more important than, you know, not knowing what happened. You know, at least there would be a memory of, you know, having encounter with this idiot playing idiotic music, and then maybe you will appreciate your things next weekend
Yeah.
even more. So in this context, it's okay, you know, whatever happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like if you express yourself, I think if you adhere to the to the to the status quo or whatever, it's easy for people to come and do the same move and leave without knowing what song started and what song ended, and everyone leaves happy, and you just maintain almost the status quo. Whereas when you try to be who you are, and just naturally, because it's not what people might be expecting, because it's not what they've seen a million times, because what's inside you is different, then usually there is an emotion, whether it's positive or negative, there's always an emotion. And as you said, like for me, I didn't DJ for a very long time. Actually, you encouraged me to DJ. I remember I used to DJ like bike shops and very, very low. I used to
Yeah,
DJ
which I
like
found
very low.
ridiculous with all your ideas and passion and knowledge and experience and history. You know, why would you, you know, bike shops are for bikes.
Yeah, but I thought these were places where I could be free, right? Because I thought for me, like I don't want to have to go to
Yeah, but it's again, you know,
but
then
like you said, like playing, like there's an extra layer of of playing with the both forces of not just wanting to be who you are easily and also the reality. Like you said, it's maybe it shouldn't be
yes,
easy.
I'm happy to hear that, because you know, going back to a bike shop, it's a taking an easy escape route. You know, you will
Yeah,
not be confronted with the need to make a decision, because, oh, you know, bike shop, no one cares.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. I
when
mean,
you
I used
put,
to curate events, but I didn't DJ because I didn't. For me, the dance floor was, if I couldn't be free, I just didn't want to do it. But you were,
but
yeah,
you can be. I mean, you're not.
exactly, exactly. And
You are.
learning how to navigate these two became, and seeing you also do it peacefully and lovingly, all of that really kind of inspired me.
That's nice, and I'm glad that you took a more difficult route, like trying to figure out how it works on the dance floor, because, you know, bike shop is easy. People are there to
Exactly.
buy their bicycles, but they're not really there to be exposed. There is also certain aspect in a volume of music when you experience it. I mean, I don't have to tell you anything about it, but it's not only hearing the music, it is sound waves that you absorb with your body, and the basses and lower frequencies. It's a full body experience when you go out, and then you are forced as a visitor or DJ or a bartender or a, you know, door guy, to actually interact with people. It's a really complex situation, but the essence of it is maybe this longing for a meaning of life, or some nostalgia, basically, that is not, you know, depressing or or paralyzing. You know, nostalgia of finding places that maybe existed, or they should exist somewhere. It's a very complex thing, again. But you know, in in this temporary community, maybe we can find those spaces, you know, not only me as a DJ, someone as a dancer, but, you know, with a bartender who likes or does not like your music, with the door guy who is annoyed. Those are, you know, unpredictable places, and if you go out, of course, you know, it can fail, and you go out and you wonder what, you know, what happened here. But then you don't have to go back to those places again, or at least you learn something, which is
Yeah,
okay. You know, I'm not going back. But this safety, or maybe confidence of being in a situation or in a place where we all who attend certain events at the same time can go to far away places, are mostly those that I visited already and felt somehow comfortable. So you go back, you meet people, you maybe become some kind of even friend with someone. And it's not that they expect something, but then we all know something beautiful can happen theoretically. And it's this endless quest for enlightenment.
yes, I agree. And when it's rewarding, it's like the most rewarding. But when it's not, it's really, for me, I get really like kind of
Oh yeah, but we survived plenty of those.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. And we keep pushing. Okay, I love you so much. Thank you for your beautiful existence and friendship. And I think the last 2 weeks I've been really focusing on this project also for the next episode. But I'm glad, like yeah, I love you very much. And
thank you for having me, and I hope that some of it makes sense, because it's really difficult for me to talk about things that are actually about experiences and worlds that are, as I told you, actually beyond concepts
yeah,
of
one of the guests.
talking.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
No, one of the guests I'm getting next, I'm gonna just write his name because I don't want to announce it now, but so you know. Uh,
Nice.
okay. There's I've seen him say, he's like, when he makes art, it's not about making, it's about life, it's about his experiences, it's not about making art.
Yeah, I mean, it's also not me who declares it as anything. It is what I do. Of course, in a way it is, but then I'm also really careful with, you know how the evaluated DJing as art became
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
there are plenty also of examples of having like long sets in order to tell a story and all those deep cliches in a way. But if there is no story to tell, the kind of some of the best stories are jokes, and it's like one sentence and then you can go, and
Yeah, yeah.
everything is done. So because of all that, of course I have my opinion about it, and I enjoy DJing as art, hearing other artists bring me to places that are unknown or bringing back to places that I knew, and feeling happy that someone also is not afraid to attend those sweet spheres, which is some kind of approval that they really exist. Of course they do. I mean, we're talking about them. But it's not on me to explain and to declare what I do.
Yeah, no, he just said like, if for him, it's about living. It's about his life, how he feels, how it's not about like making art,
Yes,
Like,
and if Zelda decides to spend her life with music and through music, right?
great. And I think she will, based on what I've seen. All right. Love you, and
Thank
hugs
you.
to
Good luck
you
with
and to
this.
Zelda and Ro.
Take care.
Okay.
We see you soon.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.
So now we're going to listen to the recording that Vladimir offered for this episode. Um, Tune in and enjoy, and thank you for listening. Much love.
By the rivers of Babylon we slept and did not see the light that was leaving us all. The hummingbird sings but soon come. Bye bye blackbird, the harsh night. And I read in the tea leaves and scan in the stars and consider the generation of generations of witches. 1,000 witches in this room. The birds are slowly singing. There's 1,000 witches in the house, in the fields, and in your heart. The light shall leave us all. Excuse me, that voice that falls from the inside them all is Endor. Perhaps it was the word saying the word. There's 1,000 witches in Lower Quinton and 1,000 witches by Hagley Wood. Speak that word whilst the sea falls and moths swirl and clouds call. There's 16 witches in Long Compton. The light is leaving us all, and the light is leaving them all. Spring is coming, so they said. Spring is moving by the whirlpool. He would kill them. And the moon is as full as the sea is as deep. Dog and mouse in the light the shadows creep. Alice sweeping Christian, Christine, Christiane, dust. The dog and the bird and the leaving swallows singing. Elizabeth, Eliza, Isabel, Isabella, Bella, Luabella, Betty. The news travels hard from heart to dark, for rumours of war and so on. On their paws black rolls the chariot. Over the plains and waves mark the stones. Arise, arise, 2,000 eyes, 1,000 witches in carnival skies. Helen, Aline, generate night. 1,000 witches in the breasts of the valley. 1,000 witches in the signs. Another face stars, the eyes, Joan and Jane and Jean, Joanna. King and queen fall. Silence shouts. Shut lock, shut door, shut lights out. Trees fall in the taste of your face. Our first kiss under that night. Said 1,000 witches in the fountains and the planets. And the birds so sweetly and softly sing. Margaret, which Meg, star Maggie, shone Peggy. Under which star were you shining? You sang, "Which sky is that?" and you sang and pointed north and south. But I see you didn't see bright dead
thousand
star
witches
fall.
with your light in their
You look
caps,
east and
fox
west,
and wolf and
birds
ghost and
sang so
crow,
sweetly.
Marion, Mary, May, Maria, 1,000 witches' fingers and teeth, and the claws and the snow and Lord Low Moon huddling over the still planets.
And then the light left you quite. I dreamt I lived on that hill in that dream where the real is just dots dying on my lap
With the birds so
under the bed I
singing,
lie.
with the birds so softly singing, with the birds so sadly singing.
The light has left them all.
was not living, he concluded. Escape had to be instant. He raised his arms and screamed from the very bottom of his soul. Enough! And the speech bubble above his head stayed there just long enough to allow a slow climb into a space where he could finally be free. Floating free. A pleasure dome with no sound, no perceptible walls, and no tension. It was as if he had the solution to everything when times became too tough. The bubble was his refuge, his sanctuary, and no one in that big wide world down there could touch him. However, the big wide world down there needed him, and he needed that big wide world too. The bubble was sweet, but essentially temporary. Eventually, a different kind of pressure rose inside him. There were physical needs. He thought of a way down. He thought it would be enough to raise his arms, call for an end a second time. He thought such a cry would present him with a gentle slide back into the reality he left behind. but the screams stayed locked inside his head as his escape chute snapped off to be replaced by a train of neat circles in a gentle curve leading to the floor of his apartment. His refuge was now a thought bubble, and there was no way back. Foolishly, he'd left the window open, and the bubble floated out into a crisp November morning, where the people below shuffled in packs to the station. And how he wanted to be part of that throng down there. Anonymous, normal again, on solid ground. And he thought, and he thought, and he thought, hoping to connect with just one person down there who might feel the need to look up. But no one looked up. No one ever looks up. No one looks at the sky anymore. No one believes anymore.
Nina majka u Bešici sina, majka sina u gori rodila. Nina majka u Bešici sina, majka sina u gori rodila.
En adolescence, on pourrait dire que la communication, c'est la transmission et la propagation d'une information.
Nina majka u Bešici sina, majka sina u gori rodila. Pčelica ga medom zadojila, jelene na babi nam
La transmission et la
bile.
propagation d'une information.
Košutice,
L'information,
košulje
c'est
krojile, povoja tu zelena kupina.
Quand on vous informe, on vous dit ce qui est censé dire. L'autre terme informer, c'est faire circuler. Les déclarations de police sont dites à juste titre des communiqués. Communiquer de l'information, c'est-à-dire on nous dit ce que nous sommes censés être en état ou devoir voir. Ce que nous sommes tenus de voir. Pas de croire, mais de faire comme si. Puisqu'on ne nous demande pas de croire, on nous demande de nous comporter comme si nous croyions. C'est ça la fonction de la communication. Et indépendamment de ces mots d'ordre et de la transmission de ces mots d'ordre, il n'y a pas de communication, il n'y a pas d'information. Ce qui veut bien dire que l'information, c'est le système du contrôle. C'est évident, sauf que ça te concerne particulièrement aujourd'hui. Ça te concerne aujourd'hui parce que c'est vrai que nous entrons dans une société qu'on peut appeler une société de contrôle. Vous savez, un penseur comme Foucault avait analysé une type de société assez rapprochée de nous. Les unes qu'il appelait des sociétés de souveraineté, et puis les autres qu'il appelait des sociétés disciplinaires. Et ce qu'il appelait des sociétés disciplinaires, qui faisaient partie maintenant, parce qu'il y a toutes les transitions avec Napoléon, qui était le passage d'une société de souveraineté à une société disciplinaire. La société disciplinaire, elle se définissait, c'est célèbre, les analyses de Foucault sont restées à juste titre célèbres, elle se définissait par la constitution du lieu d'enfermement. Prison, école, atelier, hôpital. Les sociétés disciplinaires avaient besoin de ça.
For my narrative, I have chosen as the main character an individual who has already figured in a number of the preceding stories. He is a man of about 40 years of age, very powerfully built, and equipped with a sex organ like a scout. Furthermore, he is an enormously rich man, very powerful, very brutal, and very cruel. He has a heart of stone. He owns a house in the suburbs of Milan, which he uses exclusively for his pleasures. At each of his parties, he insists that at least 15 young girls be present. aged from 15 to 17. The first thing these girls must do is to present themselves to this libertine completely naked. He touches them, feels them, caresses them. He examines them minutely. Then he makes them defecate in his mouth. But he does not swallow it. After performing these first rituals with the utmost seriousness, he brands the girls on the shoulders one by one, burning a number into their tender flesh. After these preliminaries, he opens the window wide. He chooses a girl he likes and places her standing up in the center of the room, with her face toward the window. Then he gives her such a powerful kick right in her delicate rear end that the poor unlucky thing slides all the way across the lady's bed and tumbles slap bang on the floor and plunges into a dark cellar. Click. Circle in the same. Oh yes, obviously our hero knew not only Nietzsche, but Huysmans as well, as you will soon understand, I assure you. In the cellar, an executioner, with his mask and all the usual demonic symbols of hell, operates a collection of torture instruments perfected to the highest degree. Finally, when all the girls are assembled in the cellar together, our hero is in an extraordinary state of arousal, having had 30 contacts without ejaculating once. He is entirely nude, and his huge members pointing at his navel like a rod. And now he begins. All the machines have started functioning. The tortures all begin at once. They all operate at the same instant, with terrifyingly loud rumbling and screeching. The first apparatus is a huge wheel in which razor blades are embedded. A girl is tied to the wheel and is slowly skinned alive by the blade. Another is being pushed feet first into a glowing oven. There is another who has the joy of having a live rat sewed up in her vagina.
Alleluia. Aux cieux roses de l'amour,
meinen Vater, sag es mir. Ich wünsch ihm einen Stuhl im Himmel. Oh, weh mir. Was wünschst du dir für deine Mutter? Sag es mir. Ich wünsch ihr einen Stuhl in der Hölle. Oh, weh mir.
خدا کالی لامازی